I started shopping for my in-laws' Christmas gifts in September. 3 months of careful planning, budgeting, and research to find the perfect presents for people who'd made it very clear that nothing I did would ever be good enough. My mother-in-law, Ilsa, had opinions about everything. The way I cooked turkey, the color I painted our guest bedroom, how I folded my husband's shirts. But I kept trying, kept hoping that eventually she'd see I was genuinely trying to be a good daughter-in-law. I'd been married to Logan for 2 years, and every holiday felt like a test I was destined to fail. The previous Christmas, I'd given Ilsa a cashmere scarf from Nordstrom. She'd opened it, held it up with this pinched expression, and said, "Oh, beige. How practical." Then she'd set it aside without another word. I'd seen her wear it exactly once to a garden party where she'd accidentally left it on a chair. But this year would be different. This year, I'd done my homework. Ilsa collected vintage teacups. She had an entire china cabinet dedicated to them and loved telling anyone who'd listen about her curated collection. So I'd spent weeks haunting antique shops and estate sales until I found it. A genuine 1920s Royal Albert teacup and saucer set with hand-painted roses. The pattern was discontinued, rare, and exactly the style she favored. It cost me $400, which was more than I'd ever spent on a single gift, but I'd been picking up extra shifts at the hospital where I worked as a nurse to afford it. For my father-in-law, Gerald, I'd found a first edition of his favorite book, signed by the author. He was a quiet man who mostly let Ilsa run the show, but I'd noticed he'd reread this particular novel every year. The first edition cost me $350 from a rare book dealer. I'd wrapped both gifts in expensive paper with real ribbon and boutique gift tags. Everything had to be perfect. Logan noticed me wrapping them on December 23rd. "Babe, those look amazing, but you know you didn't have to go so overboard, right?" I looked up at him, this man I loved who somehow couldn't see what I saw. "Your mom returned the candles I gave her last year. She told me at Easter that they gave her a headache." "She probably didn't mean anything by it," Logan said, in that tone he always used when defending his mother. "She told me this at the garden club luncheon in front of 8 other women." Look, I know Mom can be particular, but she means well. Particular, not controlling, not critical, not deliberately cruel, just particular. "Well, she's going to like these," I said, placing the final piece of tape. I made sure of it. Christmas morning arrived cold and gray. We were hosting at our house, which meant I'd been up since 6 preparing. Ilsa had very specific ideas about what constituted an appropriate Christmas brunch. There had to be a hot dish, a cold dish, something sweet, something savory, fresh fruit arranged artfully, and at least 2 types of juice. I'd made her favorite quiche, baked cinnamon rolls from scratch, arranged a fruit platter that looked magazine-worthy, and set the table with our wedding china. The house smelled like pine, cinnamon, and coffee. Ilsa and Gerald arrived at 9:30 exactly on time. She walked in wearing cream-colored cashmere and immediately began inspecting my decorations. "Oh, you went with a traditional tree this year. I suppose that's safe, though flocked trees are so much more elegant." "Merry Christmas, Ilsa," I said, forcing brightness into my voice. "Can I get you some coffee?" "If it's not too much trouble, though I brought my own creamer since you only keep that flavored nonsense." She pulled a small container from her purse. Gerald gave me an apologetic smile and handed me a bottle of wine. "For you and Logan, Merry Christmas, sweetheart." At least he tried. We made it through brunch with minimal commentary, though Ilsa mentioned that my quiche was slightly different than when she made it, and my cinnamon rolls were quite dense. Logan ate seconds, completely oblivious.
Finally, it was time for gifts. We'd moved to the living room, and I'd strategically placed my gifts to Ilsa and Gerald toward the back so they'd be opened last. Logan and I exchanged our gifts first. Ilsa made approving noises about the watch I'd gotten him, noting it was a proper timepiece, not one of those smart watch things. Then Ilsa handed us a small box containing empty picture frames. I thought you could choose which photos you'd like to display, since I wasn't sure which pictures were acceptable for public viewing. She smiled when she said it, that smile that looked pleasant but felt like a knife. Gerald gave us a generous check with a simple "Merry Christmas."
Finally, it was time for our gifts to them. I retrieved the beautifully wrapped packages, my heart beating faster than it should. This was it. This was when Ilsa would finally see that I'd been paying attention, that I cared. Gerald opened his first. His eyes went wide when he saw the first edition. How did you find this? I have my sources, I said, grinning. I remembered you mentioning it was your favorite. This must have cost a fortune. He was handling the book like glass. This is too much. You're worth it. For a moment, his eyes looked misty. Thank you. Really, this is incredibly thoughtful. One down, one to go. Ilsa opened hers with less care, tearing through the paper efficiently. She pulled out the box and lifted the teacup and saucer set. The room went quiet. She turned the teacup slowly, examining it. Her expression was completely neutral, which somehow felt worse than outright displeasure. Ilsa, that's a Royal Albert, isn't it? From the old Rose collection? Gerald sounded impressed. Ilsa said. I jumped in. It's from the 1920s. I know you love that era, and this pattern matches the other pieces in your collection. The roses are hand-painted, and I can see what it is, Ilsa interrupted, still staring at the teacup like it had personally offended her. Logan was beaming. That's amazing, babe. Mom, isn't that exactly what you collect? Ilsa set the teacup down with more force than necessary. It's certainly something. The air in the room changed. I spent a lot of time finding it, I said, hating how small my voice sounded. I'm sure you did, Ilsa said, her voice developing that edge. Though I have to say, I'm a bit surprised. Surprised? She picked up the teacup again, holding it like it might contaminate her. Well, it's just that this is quite an expensive piece. I know what these go for at auction. And given that you and Logan are still paying off student loans, and you've mentioned money being tight, I just think it's a bit irresponsible to spend this kind of money on a gift. The knife slid in so smoothly, I almost didn't feel it at first. Mom, Logan said, finally catching on. That's not really... But Ilsa was on a roll. She turned to Gerald. Doesn't this seem excessive? I mean, it's very sweet, but it feels like she's trying to... I don't know how to say this without sounding ungrateful. Then maybe don't say it, Gerald suggested quietly. It feels like charity, like she's trying to prove something by spending money she doesn't have on gifts we don't need. She looked at me, her eyes cold despite her smile. Sweetheart, we're not a charity case. You don't have to try so hard to impress us. The room went absolutely silent except for the crackling fire. I started, but my voice cracked. I was just trying to get you something meaningful. And it is meaningful, Ilsa said, about to completely contradict herself, but it's also inappropriate. If you're struggling financially, you should have said something. We would have understood if you'd gotten us something more reasonable, a nice card, maybe some homemade cookies. We're not struggling financially. I saved up for these gifts. I wanted to get you something special. Ilsa sighed like I was a child who wasn't understanding. But that's exactly what I mean. You shouldn't have to save up for gifts. It puts everyone in an awkward position. Now I feel like I have to keep this because you spent so much money, but honestly, it doesn't really fit with my collection. The style is slightly off. 3 months of searching, $400, hours of research, and it was slightly off. What Ilsa means, Gerald tried, is that it's a lovely gesture, but what I mean is that we're not a charity case. We don't need expensive gifts to feel loved. In fact, I'd prefer if in the future we just skip gifts altogether. It'll take the pressure off everyone. She set the teacup back in its box with finality. Logan was frozen beside me, mouth slightly open. I waited for him to say something, to defend me, to tell his mother she was being cruel. He said nothing. I think I need some air, I said, standing abruptly. Don't be dramatic, Ilsa said, laughing. "I'm just being honest. You always say you appreciate honesty, don't you, Logan?" "I do," I said quietly, "which is why I'm being direct when I say I'm going outside before I say something I regret." I walked out onto our back deck. The cold hit me immediately. My eyes burned with unshed tears, and my chest felt tight with anger and humiliation. Behind me, I could hear raised voices. Logan's, finally finding his spine. Ilsa's, sharp and defensive. Gerald's, quiet and ineffective. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and opened my notes app. I typed, "Never again." I didn't know it yet, but that moment was when everything changed. I was done trying to win her approval. Done spending money I'd worked hard to earn on people who saw generosity as an insult. Ilsa had been right about one thing. We weren't a charity case. Neither was I. When I went back inside, Ilsa was holding court about something unrelated, as if nothing had happened. The teacup was still in its box on the coffee table. Gerald gave me an apologetic look. Logan came over immediately. "Hey, I'm sorry, Mom was out of line." "Was she?" I asked quietly. "I told her it was a thoughtful gift and she should have been more gracious." After she had already said everything she said. After she had already called it charity. Logan ran his hand through his hair. "She didn't mean it like that. She's just, you know how she is." There it was again. That phrase that excused everything. Yeah, I do know how she is. That's the problem. I made it through the rest of Christmas Day on autopilot. I served dessert, made polite conversation, cleaned up after everyone left. Logan tried to talk to me about it several times, but I deflected. That night, lying in bed while Logan slept, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I went through Ilsa's social media. And there it was, posted 3 hours ago, a photo of the teacup on her dining room table. The caption read, "Well, someone certainly tried hard this Christmas. Sometimes it's the thought that counts, even when the execution is a bit off. Bless her heart for trying, though." Bless her heart. The Southern woman's way of saying someone was an idiot. The comments were rolling in. Most were supportive of Ilsa, making sympathetic noises about overeager daughters-in-laws and trying too hard. One friend had written, "Oh, Ilsa, you're so gracious to accept it anyway. I'm sure she meant well, even if she doesn't quite understand your taste yet." I took a screenshot. I didn't know why yet, just that I might need it later. Then I searched for the receipts from the rare book dealer and antique shop. I took pictures of both, clearly showing the dates, amounts, and what I'd purchased. I still didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I knew I was done playing Ilsa's game by her rules. If she wanted to call my carefully chosen, expensive gifts charity, then fine. I'd show her what actual charity looked like. Or better yet, I'd show her what the absence of my generosity looked like. No more trying to win her approval, no more expensive gifts, no more extra effort, no more setting myself on fire to warm her cold and critical heart. Ilsa thought she'd won that day. She thought she had put me in my place, reminded me that I'd never be good enough for her son. What she didn't realize was that she'd just freed me. She'd finally pushed me far enough that I stopped caring about her opinion. And that was going to be her biggest mistake. Because the thing about people who take and take and take while giving nothing but criticism in return is that they only realize what they had when it's gone. And I was about to be very, very gone.
The week after Christmas, Logan kept trying to smooth things over. "Mom called," he'd say. "She wants to apologize." Or, "Mom texted asking if you're still upset." Or, my personal favorite, "Mom says she didn't mean it the way it sounded." I didn't respond to any of it. I just smiled and said, "That's nice," then changed the subject. What Logan didn't understand was that I wasn't angry anymore. Anger would have meant I still cared what Ilsa thought. I was past anger. I was at peace. The kind of peace that comes when you finally stop trying to please someone who will never be pleased. 3 weeks after Christmas, Ilsa's birthday was approaching. In previous years, I'd made a big deal of it. Homemade cake from scratch using her grandmother's recipe that she'd graciously shared with me, a thoughtfully wrapped gift, a handwritten card expressing how grateful I was to have her as a mother-in-law. This year, Logan came to me 2 days before her birthday. Did you want to go in on a gift together? Maybe that jewelry she was looking at? No, I said simply, not looking up from my book. No? Logan repeated, like he'd misheard me. She said she preferred we skip gifts, remember? At Christmas. She said it would take the pressure off everyone, so I'm just following her wishes. Logan frowned. I think she meant... You know, she didn't mean literally no gifts ever. I finally looked up at him. Then she should have said what she meant. I'm not a mind reader, Logan. Your mother was very clear about her feelings regarding my gift giving, so I'm respecting her boundaries. Babe, come on, you're being petty. I'm being respectful of her clearly stated preferences, I corrected. There's a difference. Logan's birthday was the following month. Ilsa called him to arrange a family dinner at her house. Tell your wife she doesn't need to bring anything, she said loud enough for me to hear on speaker. I know she's probably very busy with work. It was a dismissal, wrapped in consideration, a way of saying I wasn't needed, I wasn't wanted, my contributions weren't valued. Sounds perfect, I said cheerfully. I am very busy with work. Thanks for understanding, Ilsa. I showed up to Logan's birthday dinner empty-handed. No hostess gift, no flowers, no wine, no dessert. Ilsa answered the door with this tight smile that told me she'd noticed. Nothing for the host? She asked, her voice dripping with false sweetness. You said I didn't need to bring anything, I replied, matching her tone exactly. Dinner was awkward. Ilsa kept making little comments. I suppose not everyone was raised to bring something when invited to someone's home. And it's just nice when guests show appreciation for the effort that goes into hosting. I smiled through all of it. Didn't take the bait, didn't defend myself. Just smiled and said, the meal is lovely, Ilsa. Thank you for having us. After dinner, Ilsa brought out Logan's cake, store-bought, which surprised me because she usually prided herself on baking. I would have made one from scratch, but with my arthritis acting up, it's just so difficult. I was hoping someone else might have offered to help. She looked directly at me when she said it. In previous years, I would have offered immediately. Would have baked the cake myself, delivered it to her house the day before, probably stayed to help her set up. Not anymore. That's too bad about your arthritis, I said sympathetically. Store-bought cake is perfectly fine though, right, Logan? Logan, caught between his mother and his wife, just nodded weakly. The real turning point came in March. Logan's sister, Jennifer, was getting married in June, and Ilsa was in full mother-of-the-bride mode. She'd created a massive spreadsheet of wedding tasks and had assigned responsibilities to everyone in the family. She emailed it to me with the subject line, "Your assignments for Jennifer's wedding."
I opened it to find I'd been assigned to coordinate all the bridesmaids' hair appointments, create and distribute welcome bags for out-of-town guests, pick up the flowers the morning of the wedding, set up the reception hall, and serve as backup photographer. No other daughter-in-law had more than one task. Logan's brother's wife was assigned to bring a salad to rehearsal dinner. That was it. One salad. I'd been assigned basically a full-time job. I forwarded the email to Logan without comment. He called his mother. Mom, this is a lot to put on one person. Can we redistribute some of these tasks? I could hear Ilsa's voice through the phone, shrill and defensive. Well, I assumed she'd want to help. She's always so eager to be involved in family events. I thought she'd be honored to contribute so much to her sister-in-law's special day. It's not about being honored, Logan said, and I was proud of him for that. It's about the fact that you've assigned her 20 hours of work while everyone else has maybe 2. If it's too much for her, she can just say so, Ilsa sniffed. I'm sure we can find someone more reliable. Logan looked at me. I shook my head. She's not doing any of it, Logan said, and I fell in love with him all over again in that moment.
Excuse me? Ilsa's voice went ice cold. You heard me. She's not your event coordinator. If you need help with wedding tasks, hire someone. My wife is a guest at this wedding, not unpaid labor. The line went silent for a long moment. Then, well, I see how it is. I suppose I know where I stand in this family now. Mom. She hung up. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Jennifer. Hey, she said, sounding embarrassed. I just got off the phone with Mom. I had no idea she'd assigned you all that stuff. I didn't ask her to do that. I figured. Jennifer had always been kind to me, unlike her mother. I'm really sorry. Mom has this way of steamrolling people. Especially you, I've noticed. It was the first time anyone in Logan's family had openly acknowledged Ilsa's treatment of me. It's okay, I said, but I'm not doing any of it. I hope that doesn't put you in a bad position. Are you kidding? I'm relieved. I felt terrible when Mom sent me the spreadsheet and I saw what she dumped on you. Honestly, I was about to call and tell you to ignore it. She does this thing where she volunteers other people's time and energy without asking, then acts like they're the rude ones for saying no. She's very good at that, I agreed. Listen, she said, her voice dropping. I know my mother isn't easy. I know she's been awful to you. I've watched it happen for 2 years, and I'm sorry I never said anything. But I'm saying something now. You don't owe her anything. Not your time, not your money, not your emotional labor. Nothing. I felt tears prick my eyes. Thank you. That means a lot. I mean it. And for what it's worth, that teacup you gave her for Christmas, I looked it up. It was worth way more than she let on, and it was exactly her style. She lied about it not fitting her collection. She just can't stand the idea of you doing something right. After we hung up, I felt validated in a way I hadn't since Christmas Day. The months leading up to Jennifer's wedding were tense. Ilsa was barely speaking to me, which honestly made family gatherings more pleasant. She'd make pointed comments to Logan about how some people didn't understand family obligations, but she left me alone. I hired someone to do my hair for the wedding, bought a beautiful dress, showed up looking amazing, and did absolutely nothing but enjoy myself as a guest. Ilsa kept shooting me looks throughout the reception like she was waiting for me to jump up and start solving problems. The caterer was late setting up the appetizers. The DJ couldn't find the playlist. The florist had delivered the wrong color napkins. Normally, I would have sprung into action, would have called the caterer, helped the DJ, run to a store for new napkins. Instead, I sat at my table, sipped champagne, and chatted with other guests.
I watched Ilsa get progressively more stressed, more red-faced, more frantic as small problems piled up. I watched Gerald try to help and be batted away. I watched her snap at the wedding coordinator, at the catering staff, at several family members. And I did nothing. Jennifer pulled me aside at one point. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For not helping." I know that sounds weird, but Mom has this way of creating chaos and then blaming other people when things go wrong. This time, she has no one to blame but herself. It's actually kind of liberating to watch. The breaking point with Ilsa came in August, 5 months after the wedding. It was Gerald's 65th birthday, and Ilsa was throwing him a surprise party. She'd called Logan to inform him we were expected to attend and that we needed to contribute $100 toward the catering costs. "Everyone's chipping in," she said. "It's only fair." Logan agreed without consulting me. When he told me about it, I raised an eyebrow. We're paying $100 to attend a party we didn't help plan for a gift we didn't select? "It's Dad's birthday," Logan said. "Come on." "I love Gerald," I said honestly, "but your mother has made it very clear that she doesn't want or need my contributions to family events. So I'm confused why she suddenly needs my money." "It's not your money, it's our money," Logan said, getting defensive. "You're right," I agreed. "So you can take $100 from your personal spending account, not from our joint account." We'd set up separate personal accounts after a financial counselor suggested it.
We each got the same amount of fun money each month to spend however we wanted, no questions asked. Logan's face fell. He'd already spent most of his fun money that month on a new gaming console. "She's going to be pissed if we don't contribute," he said. "Then you explain to your mother why we're not contributing. Tell her it's because I'm still following her Christmas advice about not spending money we can't afford on people who don't appreciate it." Logan stared at me. "You're never going to let that go, are you?" "Let what go? The time your mother called my thoughtful, expensive gifts charity and told me I was irresponsible with money? The time she humiliated me in front of your father and then posted about it on Facebook? That?" "She apologized," Logan said weakly. "No, she didn't. She said she didn't mean it the way it sounded, which isn't an apology, it's a deflection." We didn't contribute to the party. Ilsa noticed. At the party, she pulled Logan aside, loud enough for multiple people to hear, and said, "I'm surprised you two couldn't spare $100 for your father's milestone birthday. I suppose money really is tight for you." It was a direct jab at Christmas, a callback to her claim that I was irresponsible with money I didn't have. I walked over and inserted myself into the conversation. "Actually, Ilsa, money isn't tight at all. We just decided to prioritize our spending differently. You taught me that at Christmas, remember? When you said I was spending money we didn't have on gifts you didn't want. So I've been much more careful about where our money goes. I'm so grateful for that lesson." I said it with a smile, with warmth, with absolutely no hint of sarcasm. Ilsa's face went through several colors. "Well, I suppose everyone has different priorities." "Exactly," I agreed. "Some people prioritize family. Others prioritize, well, other things." It was a direct hit, and we both knew it. I was throwing her words back at her, and she couldn't say anything without admitting what she said at Christmas was wrong. She walked away without another word. That night, Logan got a long text from his mother. She said I was disrespectful, that I had changed, that I was driving a wedge between Logan and his family, and that she didn't appreciate being spoken to that way in her own home. Logan showed me the text. "What do you want me to say?"
"The truth," I said. "Tell her she's right. I have changed. I'm no longer willing to be treated like a charity case who's trying too hard. Tell her that when she's ready to apologize for what she said at Christmas, and I mean actually apologize, not explain how I misunderstood her. Then we can talk about moving forward. Until then, I'll be polite at family events, but I won't be contributing time, energy, or money to someone who's made it clear she doesn't value my contributions." Logan typed out a much softer version of that, but he still sent it. Ilsa didn't respond for 3 weeks. When she finally did, it was a Facebook post, a photo of the teacup I'd given her, displayed in her china cabinet. The caption read, "Finally found the perfect spot for this beautiful vintage piece. Sometimes treasures take time to appreciate. Heart?" It wasn't an apology. It was an olive branch, wrapped in plausible deniability. Logan thought I should take it. "She's trying," he said. Is she? Or is she posting publicly so she looks like the bigger person without actually having to admit she was wrong? But I was tired of fighting, tired of the tension, so I commented on the post. "So glad you found a place for it. It really is a beautiful piece." Ilsa called me the next day. "Thank you for the comment," she said stiffly. "You're welcome." A long pause. Then, "I may have been hasty in my reaction to your gift at Christmas." May have been hasty. Not "I was wrong," not "I'm sorry," just may have been hasty. I appreciate you saying that, because Logan was listening and I was choosing my battles. "Good," Ilsa said, like that settled it. "So we can go back to normal now?" "Define normal," I asked. Another pause. "Well,
family dinners, holiday planning, the usual. The usual where you assign me hours of unpaid labor and criticize everything I do, or a new normal where we treat each other with mutual respect. I heard her sharp intake of breath. I have never been disrespectful to you. Ilsa, I said calmly, you called $750 worth of carefully chosen gifts charity. You posted on social media mocking my taste. You've made comments about my cooking, my decorating, my clothes, my career, and my marriage for 2 years. So when you say you've never been disrespectful, I have to disagree. Silence. Then, I see. Well, if that's how you feel, perhaps it's best we keep our distance. Perhaps it is, I agreed. She hung up. Logan was furious. You just blew up my relationship with my mother. No, I said firmly. Your mother's behavior blew up her relationship with me, and you're going to have to decide whether you want a wife who stands up for herself or a mother who treats people terribly without consequences. It took Logan 3 months of therapy, individual and couples, to understand what had really happened, to see the patterns he'd been excusing his whole life, to recognize that she's just particular was code for she's cruel and I'm too scared to call her on it. We didn't speak to Ilsa for 6 months. She sent cards, gifts, messages through other family members, all of them trying to restart the relationship without actually apologizing. Finally, on what would have been our 3rd Christmas together, Ilsa sent a handwritten letter, not to both of us, just to me. In it, she admitted that she'd been threatened by me from the beginning, that she saw how much Logan loved me and was afraid of losing her son, that she'd been critical because she wanted to find flaws before she could hurt him, that the Christmas gifts had been so thoughtful, so perfect, that it had scared her because it proved I understood her family better than she wanted to admit. The letter ended with, I'm sorry. Truly sorry. Not for how you took it, but for what I said and did. You deserved better. You've always deserved better. If you're willing, I'd like to try again. The right way this time. After reading it, I showed Logan the letter. He cried. What do you want to do? He asked. I thought about it for a long time. I want to try, but she needs to understand that things will be different. I'm not going back to being the daughter-in-law who tries to earn her love. I'll be respectful, I'll be kind, but I won't be a doormat. Fair, Logan said. We invited Ilsa and Gerald for dinner. It was awkward at first. Ilsa kept apologizing, overcorrecting, trying too hard. But gradually, we found a rhythm. She asked about my work and actually listened. She complimented my cooking without qualifications. She treated me like a person instead of competition. It's been 2 years since then. Ilsa and I aren't best friends, but we're okay. She still makes the occasional comment that stings, but she catches herself now, apologizes. We've established boundaries, and she respects them. Last Christmas, I bought her a vintage teacup, much less expensive than the first one. She opened it, smiled, and said, "It's perfect. Thank you." And she meant it. The first teacup, the expensive one, the charity gift, it's still in her china cabinet, displayed prominently. She tells guests the story now, but a different version. About how her daughter-in-law spent months finding the perfect gift, and she'd been too proud to appreciate it at the time. It's not the whole truth, but it's closer to the truth than where we started, and that's enough.